Hey y'all, welcome back to Jock's Journey. I am Jacquel, and today, this is my second video, so y'all give me grace as I learn how I'm going to do this and how y'all seeing the process. I've never done this. So today I wanted to talk about a little bit of my journey as far as in how I actually struggled a little bit with, do I believe God is real, to be honest. I grew up in a church, grew up in a Baptist church, but I don't really remember a lot of my childhood, so I can't be like, oh, I learned this in church. I don't have that testimony. What I do know is what I remember as far back as I can remember, I always struggled with understanding and hearing God's voice. I would be like, is this God's voice? Is this my voice? How do I discern? How do I know? Why does it seem like everybody else just knows God's voice and why I don't? So I want to talk to you a little bit about why I still chose God, why I still chose Christianity when I had those thoughts. So I'm gonna tell y'all a little story, right? I don't remember what age I was, but I do know it had to be end of high school, beginning of college. I think it was end of high school though. I'm not sure, but I do know it was among those years. I remember being at my mom's house. We were getting ready to go to church, and we went to church. At the time, I didn't know that my mom put a pot on the stove. So this is how I think this is how I believe God taught me that I hear his voice. So I didn't realize my mom had put a pot on the stove before we left for church. And she is really good at like turning stuff off, and she's, since as far as I can remember, has never made a mistake in the kitchen. So we go, so this is just hindsight. I didn't know this at the time. But I just remember being at church, and I guess I can't remember all the details of how we ended up taking two cars that day, but I do remember we left for church, right? And I just remember sitting in church, and it wasn't like the beginning of church, it was close to the end of church service. I don't know if the preacher already preached, I don't know. But what I do remember is I was sitting there in service, and all of a sudden I got this overwhelming feeling and voice. And so the voice that I heard, it didn't sound like an outside voice. It wasn't anything like outside of myself, but it felt so strong. You know how you have like random thoughts in your head? So this felt like a thought that came in my head, but it came with this sensation of a knowing, right? So I was sitting in church, and I just felt the pot is on. And I was like, and all I remember, because I would never forget it, and all I remember was like I gasped. So this happened in my head, but I was like, the pot is on. And I didn't even know or recognize she had put a pot on, right? Or even left the pot on the stove. So I think I was on like the left side of the church. You know, you have like two aisles, like this side, that side. So I remember walking over to her, and I think whispering in her ear, "Mama, the pot is left on left on. I just believe me." I just remember like the pot is left on, and I don't know if she gave me the keys or if I don't think I already had the keys, but I think she gave me the keys. And so I just went home. I drove the car back to the house. And when I got to the house, it was smoking. Like the pot, it was as if it was right before it was about to catch on fire. It was, you know how you boil, you have smoked meat, black people. I don't know if, never mind, I ain't going to that. But black people, what I do know is when we make like greens, cabbage, or certain type of dishes, we tend to boil smoked meat. So she was boiling smoked meat in the pot, and I guess all the water boiled out and the meat was burning. So not only was it smoking, but the stench was like horrible. And so I was like, oh my God. So I just opened all the windows. I started opening windows. I turned off, I turned off the pot first, removed it, immediately put water in it because it was on the verge. Like it was black and on the verge, like of catching on fire. And I opened the pot, it would just steam comes out, and I do all the stuff, put water in it, lift up all the windows, and the smell was horrible. But I just remember after everything calmed down, I just remember I said, God told me that. So for me, that is how I figured out that God actually talks, because it was just, I cannot explain it, y'all. It was just a knowing, like how I know my first name. It was just, I knew this thing to be true, and to see the evidence that I like this was actually right. I knew it was God. So for me, that was like the catalyst of knowing I do hear from God. And when I get into my seasons and into spaces where I want to doubt God and doubt, do I hear him? Because even after that, I still struggle. Do I hear him? Because every time he speaks to me, it's not that knowing. He only spoke to me one other time like that, and that will probably be the next video, because it's very pivotal. It was a very pivotal thing. But that was the very first time that I ever felt this strong impression, like I couldn't shake it. Like, and it makes me think, I don't know how God speaks to other people, but I think, and what I believe, just based off just reading the Bible and understanding God's character, it helps me to believe in him, right? Because it seems like he knows how to speak to a particular person a particular way. So for me, because he knows I don't really believe people like that. I mean, I'm growing up as far as in maturing, I would say, like people can give accurate prophecies and all that stuff. But for a long time, I just really didn't believe. I had two extremes. Either I just felt like I can't hear from God at all, even though I had that encounter when I was like a teenager. I know it was like teenage years. I still struggle because I never had an experience like that again until 2020. I just didn't believe that I heard from God. So my first extreme in my life was, I always went to other people to hear from God. I always, that was just me. But it was also the makeup of being a people pleaser. That's just a whole nother story. I was a people pleaser, and with being a people pleaser, you have this insecurity of yourself and your self-worth, right? And so all I knew was that all my life, I always wanted to have a relationship with God. Like, that's always been a desire of mine. It's never changed. Like, how some people desire relationships or they desire certain careers. My desire my entire life has been, I want a relationship with God. And I'm confused and I don't understand why everybody else is getting this like that, and it's so hard for me to understand. So to understand him. And so that's how I was the majority of my life. Not believing, not understanding that I can hear God for myself. But it was a journey. I think that how you see yourself, and what I believe, how you see yourself and your self-worth, it impacts how you see God. It impacts what you believe God does for you, right? And so I didn't fully understand it until later on in life. And so now I'm at the point where I know and I believe God speaks. It's not that. It's in the little stuff. It's in the stuff like doing this video, like doing videos. I have this desire that I need to be doing videos, but it wasn't as strong as how it had happened for me back then when I was a teenager. You get what I'm saying? So that's why certain stuff, it feels like it's just annoying. But that is like a rarity for me. It's usually me just trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know if this is him or not. But what gives me peace and what gives me assurance is his character. So what I'm learning about God is he wants to have a relationship with me. He wants to have a relationship with you. And he desires for us not to be like deceived in deception. And he desires for us not like, he doesn't want for us to struggle with hearing his voice, right? And so he does things, I believe that he does things in our life to try to get us to see that he's speaking to us. He's speaking. But I think our own insecurities, as far as, at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I believe because my own insecurities and unforgiveness, I had a lot of unforgiveness in my heart, and I didn't really know it. I don't even know if it was fully unforgiveness. Part of it, I believe, was unforgiveness, but I think part of it was just the unhealed parts of me, like my father not being there in my life, which I didn't really think impacted my life like that. I really did not know not having a father in my not having my biological father in my life impacted me. I always blamed everything on my mom. I did. But one thing that God is teaching me is the importance of a father's voice. So I can't speak on it as far as like a natural father, but he's teaching me as him being my father on his voice, what it sounds like, what a father does, like all that stuff. And so for me, understanding and having confidence in knowing that God is real and that he speaks has been him showing up in little ways, or him reminding me of stuff that I forgot about. And knowing his character, that he specifically goes after people, period, right? Period. He's gonna come after you, period. Like, even when I think about like Daniel, right, and Nebuchadnezzar, he even went after Nebuchadnezzar. Like, he had all those dreams and all that stuff, but Nebuchadnezzar, like, he wasn't stunting God. Like, he wasn't whatever, but God still gave him dreams. Like, God doesn't just want us to not know him. Even when we're not fully searching or seeking him, he can still speak to us. I think what gives me hope and what keeps me hopeful is really looking back on my life and seeing how many times I didn't understand or believe that I hear or heard his voice in a scenario or a situation, but how he still pursues me regardless of my doubt. And that's what gives me hope, because it teaches me that he doesn't just give up on us because we don't fully understand. He don't just give up on us because we struggle with our belief. And I think that if anybody out there has been like me, who struggle with perfectionism, I'm learning how patient he is. And in knowing how patient he is with me, it helps me to be more patient with other people who are like me. Because what I do know, what he has taught me, is how I see myself and how I see other people is actually what I see and believe about myself. So I feel like I was hard on people or hard in relationships and stuff But it's because I was hard on myself. I was hard on my mother, but it's because I was hard on myself. And I may have gotten that trait from her, may have gotten but I may have gotten it through my bloodline. Who knows? But what I do know is when God shows me a thing about myself and about my character and about all that, he does it in a way where it makes me want to come to him more. That's why I believe that God is real. That is why I don't give up on believing that I hear him. And yeah, so I know this video was everywhere. It didn't really have that much of a flow to it, but I thank everybody who watched the whole thing, giving me grace. And hopefully you receive something from it. The next one I think would be more clean and thorough, because I'm going to talk about a promise that God gave me. And it was undeniable that it was God. I can't believe I even just said that, because I struggled so many years trying to figure out if it's God or not, but I can't deny it because it's too much peace behind what he told me. And I will go into that in the next video. But I just hope that this video helps somebody or gives somebody hope that think about your life. Think about like God didn't show me that he speaks to me through other people because I used to be somebody who because I was somebody who used to struggle with do I hear God's voice, and therefore I went to other people to hear from him. So for me, even though I may be for other people, they may receive a whole bunch of prophecies and all that stuff. For me, that's not what he did for me. He came to me directly to get me to understand and to see that I hear him for myself. He didn't talk to me through a lot of people. And I think that's what frustrated me but I had to learn that. Like, I think maturing has shown me that God doesn't really speak to me according to my insecurities, which was I felt like I needed to hear him from other people. So he didn't really speak to me a lot through other people. He spoke to me directly because he wants me to have confidence and assurance that if there was nobody else left on this earth, do I know that I have a relationship with him? Do I know that I hear him? Can I say and be solidified and have assurance that I have a relationship with him outside of other people? And so I think he does it in a way, or he tries to teach us about his voice in a way where we know that it's him. And I don't know how he does that for you. And if you may struggle with people and don't believe what nobody's saying, so he may talk to you through other people, because maybe he's trying to get you to trust and trust people, or, I don't know. But for me, it was, I didn't know that I didn't trust God. And the way he chose to speak to me was directly because he wanted me to trust that I hear from him, so that if he ever uses my mouth to speak to other people, I don't have to go to somebody else and be like, I think God told me this. Is it okay if I say this? No. He wants me to be confident that I hear him, just like with these videos. I didn't get permission. I didn't get confirmation. I didn't get any of that from anybody else. Like, nobody came and told me, like, that's just not how that worked. It was, he spoke to me, or I had this impression directly, and it didn't ever really go away. And I think I heard teachings, and I would hear stuff here and there that would kind of bring it back to my remembrance. But it was never like oh, you got to get confirmation from 2 other people before you go and do what God told you to do. I don't know no prophet that had to go and get confirmation from somebody else to be a prophet and to speak on God's behalf. If that's the case, why are you a prophet? Does that make sense? So, however God is going to use me, the way he decided to speak and make himself known in my life, he did it directly because he knew my insecurities. So he's going to talk to you. He's going to talk to you in a way where you will know it's him. And I can't tell you how that's going to be. But what I do know, his character, based off his character, he's going to do it in a way where you know it's him. And if you don't know his character, just try to read the Bible. Just try to look at how he talked to other like people in the Bible. Samuel, Moses, like just like Paul. Like it's so many people. Just look to see how he talked to them. And I think he talked to everybody specifically how they needed to hear him. And what keeps coming to mind is Samuel, who became a prophet. He thought the voice that he was hearing was Eli. Like he thought the voice he was hearing it sounded like somebody familiar. Like he thought it was like somebody familiar, but it was actually God. Like, you get what I'm saying? So, like, God knows how to get your attention. That's what I'm trying to say. He knows how to get your attention, and he knows how to make it plain to you. Even when you have doubts. That's all I can say. We may not understand like every step, as far as every step in life, should I do this, should I do that, or anything like that. But when it comes to his voice, God's character, he's not playing around with that. He doesn't play games. He doesn't play games. Yeah, he doesn't play games, but you can't know him without him. And he is his word. So, I just leave it at that for today. And then my next video, like I said, I'll talk about something that's extremely vulnerable, that I'm extremely scared to talk about, but I think that is necessary. I think that is necessary. And I believe that it's going to give hope to many people regarding God's promise. And so I'm excited for that one. I am excited for that one. So I'll see y'all next time on Jock's Journey. Bye, y'all.